The New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority gave notice of the time, place, and date of this meeting by email on January 29th, 2024 to the Star Ledger, the Times, and the Secretary of State, and by posting the notice at the offices of the authority in Princeton, New Jersey, and on the authority's website. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, a resolution must be passed by the New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority in order to hold a session from which the public is excluded. Cheryl, would you please read the roll?
Yes, thanks. Josh Otis,
Here.
Richie Hutchinson,
Here.
Luis Rodriguez. You're on mute, Luis.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ryan Feeney,
Here.
Dr. Bridges.
Here.
We also have this morning on the call, Sam Kovac-Orr from the Governor's Authorities Unit. We have Brian McGarry from the Attorney General's Office, Steve Nelson, Ellen Yang, and Brian Sitkus from the Treasury, from the Authority. From Princeton University, we have Tim Graff, Associate Vice President for Treasury Services, and Matt Mazza, Director of Debt Management. We also have Brian Hayes from the Yuba Group, who is Financial Advisor to the University. And we have Dacia Haddad and Bill Benzing from Eckert Siemens, who are serving as bond counsel to the Authority on the Princeton transactions this morning. And that covers it, Josh.
Great, thank you, Cheryl. Yes, everyone, please turn to tab 1 for a series resolution authorizing the issuance of New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority Princeton University Revenue Bonds 2024 Series A. And I'd like to ask Steve to please introduce.
Thank you, Josh. Today, the members are being asked to approve 2 resolutions for 3 series of bonds. The first resolution authorizes the issuance of new money revenue bonds for Princeton University in an amount not to exceed $1 billion. The authority intends to sell these bonds on a competitive basis later this month. The 2024 Series B and C resolution, which will be presented after the 2024 Series A resolution, authorizes the issuance of new money revenue bonds and refunding bonds for the university in an amount not to exceed $673 million. Those bonds will be issued on a negotiated basis and will constitute 2 individual series under one plan of finance, also sold in February. With respect to the resolution before you now, the 2024 Series A bonds are being issued to provide funds to be loaned to the university to finance certain capital assets to be located at or near the university's main/meadow campus in Princeton and West Windsor Township, at its Forestal campus in Plainsboro and South Brunswick, at its administrative building along Canal Point Boulevard in West Windsor, or at its Hopewell campus in Hopewell. In addition to providing funding to construct and renovate university buildings, purchase capital equipment for academic departments and administrative and supporting units, and the acquisition of land, the proceeds will refund existing tax-exempt and taxable commercial paper notes. The Bank of New York Mellon will serve as trustee, and Eckert Siemens has been selected to serve as bond counsel. At this time, I'd like to invite Dacia to formally present the resolution before you.
Dacia, you're on mute.
Dacia.
Sorry, I thought I hit unmute.
No worries.
I'll now walk you through the resolution at a high level. I won't hit every single section, but I'll hit the substantive sections. Article 1 of the resolution provides for certain definitions relating to the applicable series of the bonds. Article 2 provides certain provisions that are applicable to the bonds. 2.01 authorizes an authorized officer to execute all documents necessary to enable the authority to finance the project and the payment of the cost of issuance and the deposit of certain funds into certain funds created under the resolution. It also authorizes the project that was described to you just previously, so I won't reiterate that project again. Article 2.03 provides for the issuance of the bonds in one or more series in an amount not to exceed $1 billion, maturing not later than March 1st, 2064, bearing a true interest cost not to exceed 6% per annum, and providing that bond counsel shall deliver an opinion that interest on the bonds is not included in the gross income for federal income tax purposes. Section 2.05 provides for optional and mandatory sinking fund redemption of the bonds. Section 2.07 appoints the Bank of New York Mellon as bond trustee, registrar, and paying agent. Section 2.14 provides for the form of the bonds. Section 2.16 provides that the university has undertaken all responsibility for compliance with continuing disclosure requirements, and that the authority shall have no liability to the holders of the bonds or any other person with respect to continuing disclosure. Section 2.17 authorizes as additional proceedings to the authority in connection with the issuance and sale of the bonds, since they're being offered on a competitive basis, certain additional actions, including to be evidenced pursuant to a certificate of determination of an authorized officer, specifically to receive the official form of bid, the official pursuant to the notice of sale, and with the advice of bond counsel and attorney general to reject all bids, waive irregularities or informalities, and to take certain other actions in connection with electronic bidding. Section 3.01 ratifies and confirms the establishment of certain funds and accounts under the resolution and creates and establishes a construction fund for the bond proceeds. Section 3.06 provides for the deposit of revenues into certain funds and accounts held under the resolution. 3.07 provides for the investment of monies in the construction fund in accordance with the resolution and the investments identified on Exhibit A to the series resolution. 4.01 approves the form of the loan agreement between the authority and the university and authorizes the execution thereof. And Section 4.04 provides for certain covenants of the authority relating to the tax-exempt status of the bonds. Section 4.05 authorizes the investment of bond proceeds in accordance with the authority's investment policy. And Section 4.06 provides the authority's declaration of intent to reimburse itself for certain expenditures for costs of the Series A project that were made prior to the issuance of the bonds with proceeds of the bonds.
Thank you, Dacia. Before we open it up for any questions, I'd like to welcome Tim Graff from the university to say a few words about the importance of this new money component to the ambitious capital plan that the university is undertaking. Tim?
Steve. And first of all, I would like to thank the authority for continued partnership. You've been an incredibly valued partner throughout the years as we've sought and achieved tax-exempt financing for Princeton University. Also wanted to thank you for holding a special meeting on our behalf today. So as far as the importance of the projects, I think anyone who has been on our campus in recent years or recent months, especially the last 18 or so, can see Princeton is in the process of an ambitious expansion. We're adding 500 students to our student body, which for some of the larger public universities might not sound like much, but for a fairly small liberal arts university with about 6,000 undergrads, it's a large and ambitious expansion for us. So the purpose of the new money financing is tied to that expansion. We are in the process or about to break ground on Hobson College, which will soon house additional undergraduate students. In addition, there are several projects that we're doing where we're investing heavily in engineering. There are 3 or 4 buildings, the components of which will be financed with this. In addition, there's a few library projects that we're working on as well. And then finally, this will help us to finance a portion of the Princeton University Art Museum, which is in the process of doubling its display space. I'd be happy to take any questions. And other than that. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions for Tim, Dacia, or myself?
I just wonder if the international students are dropping out. Do you project they will be coming back in, or there was a concern about the universities not having enough international students?
Yeah, I don't believe we've really seen much of a drop in international students. We just finished up our Appendix A. So Brian, do you recall? I believe we got this question from the rating agencies as well.
Yeah, I think that's right, Tim. I don't think there's been material changes in the composition.
of international students. Yeah. And I think our financial aid policy is completely need-based. And I think a big reason for that is that it's not restricted based on domicile of the students. So,
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Louis. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. Given that I'm always concerned about, the kind of practicality of the health of our institutions, and I know Princeton is good for this. My question was simply around very basic, and this might have been in the materials, but how does the issuance of these bonds impact Princeton's annual short-term and long-term debt obligations?
so obviously it will add to our long-term debt obligations. We're talking about 1.5 billion in total additional. That is the very reason that we have a financial advisor, the Yuba Group. So Brian is our representative there. But we are comfortable that we have adequate debt capacity and that this is something that more than will pay for itself over the years as far as additional students and additional access to other members to become Princeton students as well.
Okay, so the annual debt obligation will increase by roughly, like I said, I know that you're good for it, but do you know off the top of your head how much your annual debt obligations will increase?
Our annual debt service?
Yes, the annual debt service.
It kind of depends on the structure. Brian, do you have that in ballpark by any chance?
I do, and as Tim said, it depends heavily on the structure, which hasn't been perfectly finalized. Given the magnitude of the debt issuance and the current structure of the university's existing debt, there's been a general assumption and desire to have this debt service wrap around the existing debt service, such that it's filling in some gaps so that future years aren't actually too significantly elevated versus current levels. But because there's a wrapping, as Tim was saying, the debt service in any one year is likely not to be level. This won't be a 30-year level amortizing debt issuance on a standalone basis. Based on current structuring assumptions, which are not yet final, and recent rates, which are not going to be the rates that ultimately will be identical to the pricing rates. Near term, I think debt service obligations would be expected to go up about $65 million per year. If that helps give a sense of the magnitude, and that's the years where there won't be principal. There will be principal in future years, but again, those will be the years that currently have lower debt service obligations, such that things are relatively leveled out.
Okay, thank you.
So Dr. Bridges, thank you for your question. Just wanted to put another fine point on all of that. Princeton, as you may know, is a natural AAA credit. And I would say that, the expectation is that tremendous credit rating will be reaffirmed in the rating process as well.
Yep, definitely echo Cheryl's comments there. The one other thing that we didn't say to that is, Dr. Bridges, the comment about annual debt service and how that's increasing is not one taken lightly by the university. And I know Tim and his team have spent a ton of time modeling the budgetary impact under different scenarios of the increased debt, and ultimately still have determined that it's to be the best financing source for this component of the university.
Okay, I'm good. I just, like I said, my job is to just understand get a sense of obligations of our higher education sector, and so just curious. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bridges. Any other questions that the members may have? Okay, hearing none. Josh?
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Now I'll read the resolution. A series resolution authorizing the issuance of New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority Princeton University Revenue Bonds 2024 Series A. I'd like to request a motion approving the resolution.
So move, Louis.
by Louis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rich. Thank you. Cheryl, please read the roll.
Josh Hodis,
Yes.
Ridgely Hutchinson,
Yes.
Louis Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brian Feeney,
Yes.
Dr. Bridges,
yes,
all in favor.
Great, thank you. Next item, a series resolution authorizing the issuance of New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority Princeton University Revenue Bonds 2024 Series B and Princeton University Revenue Refunding Bonds 2024 Series C. I'd like to once again ask Steve to please introduce.
Thank you again, Josh. As discussed earlier, the members are being asked to approve a second resolution for Princeton University authorizing the issuance of new money and refunding bonds in an amount not to exceed $673 million. The 2024 Series B bonds are being issued with similar new money purposes as mentioned in my remarks earlier and by Tim related to the 2024 Series A bonds. The maximum principal amount of the 2024 Series B bonds will be $500 million. The 2024 Series C bonds are being issued to refund all or a portion of the currently outstanding $176,200 million 2014 Series A bonds for debt service savings. In accordance with its policies and procedures, the university distributed and evaluated an RFP for underwriter services. Based on the results of the evaluation, the authority recommends appointing Goldman Sachs to serve as senior manager and B of A Securities to serve as co-senior manager. Morgan Stanley, Ramirez, Sieber Williams Shank, and Loop Capital Markets have been selected to serve as co-managers. And once again, the Bank of New York Mellon will serve as trustee and escrow agent, and Eckert Siemens has been selected to serve as bond counsel. And once again, I'd like Dacia to formally present the resolution before you.
Thank you. This resolution was almost substantively identical to the first resolution. So I'll make it your option if you want me to go through each section like I did before, or just point out the differences between the first resolution.
I think the latter is fine.
Okay, so starting with section 2.03, it provides for the resolution provides for the issuance of the bonds in one or more series or sub-series in a maximum principal amount not to exceed $673 million, maturing not later than March 1st, 2064, bearing a true interest cost of not to exceed 6% per annum, and providing that bond counsel shall once again deliver an opinion that interest on the bonds is not included in gross income for federal income tax purposes. In section 2.15, which was not included in the other resolution, appoints Goldman Sachs and Company LLC as senior managing underwriter to purchase the bonds and authorizes an authorized officer to execute and deliver on behalf of the authority one or more purchase agreements in substantially the form presented to this meeting, with such changes as shall be approved by the authorized officer with the advice of bond counsel and the Attorney General of the state. Section 2.15 further provides that the underwriter's discount for the Series BC bond shall not exceed $2.50 per $1,000 of principal amount, authorizes the appointment of one or more co-managing underwriters, determines that the issuance of the bonds involves certain circumstances under which the negotiated sale is permissible as outlined in Executive Order number 26, and ratifies the preparation, publication, and distribution of the preliminary official statement and the execution and delivery of a final official statement in connection with the execution of the bonds. Moving down. There was no section 2.17 in this with respect to the official notice of sale because these bonds were not competitively offered. And then section 4.01 approves the form of a loan agreement and an escrow deposit agreement between the authority and the university, and authorizes the execution and delivery thereof, and authorizes additional actions in connection with the refunding project, including the purchase of United States Treasury obligations, state and local government series, or the selection of a firm to act as the authority's broker or direct the authority's bidding agent to solicit bids to purchase open market U.S. Treasury obligations. And those were the only differences between this resolution and the first resolution that was presented.
Okay, thank you, Dacia. And before we open it up for any questions, I once again ask Tim, maybe Tim, if you could focus a little bit on the benefits of the refunding component as the new money component in this series, Series B, similar to Series A.
Yes, thank you. So as far as the new money purpose, as Steve said, it's largely the same in this second series. As far as the refunding, we're planning, hoping to, knocking on wood, to refund about 172,670,000 of Series 2014 bonds. The current NPV savings on these bonds is approximately 14.6 million based on current rates, which equates to about an 8.45% NPV savings, again, rate dependent on when we actually price. So that
Excellent.
summarizes
you.
that.
Okay, thank you, Tim. And Dacia, any questions for Tim or Dacia or myself? Okay, hearing none. Josh?
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, everybody. A series resolution authorizing the issuance of New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority Princeton University Revenue Bonds 2024 Series B and Princeton University Revenue Refunding Bonds 2024 Series C. I'd like to request a motion approving the resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Dr.
Bridges.
Thank you, Dr. Bridges. I will second. Cheryl, please read the roll.
Josh Otis,
Yes.
Ridgely Hutchinson,
Yes.
Louis Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ryan Feeney,
Yes.
Dr. Bridges,
Yes.
all in favor.
Great, thank you. I'd like to remind everybody that our next regularly scheduled meeting is on Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. And I'd like to request a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Moved
Second.
by Rich, second by Lewis, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Great, thank you. Meeting adjourned.